a excellent segue into saying hello, everybody. We're here. We're finally ready to go, and I guess we can start with our introductions. We can get Dan on board once. Dan. We can get Chris on board once he figures out what's going on hardware wise.
God bless.
So I guess we'll just start at the top of the chat and work our way down with a small introduction from Dan.
Sure. So, hey, guys. I'm Dan. I am the Void Interactive SWAT Technical Advisor. I've been here one capacity or another since, well, pretty early on in the project. A little bit of background about me. I'm a 20-year law enforcement officer. I work in a suburban department that's in a smaller city that surrounds a much larger city in a metropolitan area. I'm a patrol sergeant, and I work on a collateral duty SWAT team, a pretty large regional team. We have about 65 members to the team. I do that where I serve as an element leader, and I am the lead of the firearms training cadre for that organization. I also work as a instructor for a well-known SWAT training organization, doing training kind of all over the country. And that's me.
All right. And then Mr. 60.
Hello, my name is 68 Whiskey. I've been here for a hot minute now, back in the days of Easy. Hey, Chris got here. Let's go. I was a police officer for about 4 years, and I was also in the Texas Army National Guard for 6 years as a combat medic. I don't have anywhere near the credentials that Dan does. I was just a patrol officer in a small suburban city. Really enjoyed it, and now I make YouTube videos and work in IT. So there you go.
All right,
hey guys, I could now.
There we go. And then our fashionably late third participant, Chris the Cop. Go away with your introduction.
Hey everybody, Chris the Cop here. Been a police officer now for 27 years. I actually just retired May 31st as the chief of police of my own police department. I spent 22 years on SWAT with 6 years as a SWAT commander. I first started off as TEMS, a tactical medic. And I had an awesome career, and actually I may be returning, you guys are hearing it for the first time, I may be returning back to law enforcement in the next couple of months, so keep your ears posted, because definitely my career's not over yet.
All right.
Wow, what a man.
That's actually pretty cool. So we got three different levels of experience here. That's actually pretty perfect. Alrighty. And I guess we'll start off with a nice simple one. Going from Chris, Dan, and then to 6, because that's how the voice chat is ordered. When did you guys know you wanted to be in law enforcement?
Well, actually, for me, I'll be honest, I never wanted to be a cop. I had no desire to be a cop. As a matter of fact, I really didn't like cops. I was a paramedic of 10 years. And subsequently, I was working for a private ambulance company, and I was not able to provide for my family. So a couple of friends of mine who were cops said, hey, you know what, dude, you get to help people. You love helping people. This is right up your alley, and you could definitely make a difference. And I put in my app on a whim, and 6 months later, I was in the police academy getting yelled at. And 27 years later, the rest is history. But my friends were right, because though I didn't like what I had originally seen in police officers, I was able to make a difference and change that, to the point that I even had my youngest daughter of 25, she's 25 years old now, but she decided to follow my steps and has been a cop now for 5 years herself.
Wow, that's pretty cool. All right. What about you, Dan?
So I think I've told this story before, but I became a cop because I misread a quote from a book. So growing up, in my late teens, right as I was graduating high school, two things kind of happened in fairly close succession that I remember left a big impression on me. It was the North Hollywood shootout I remember seeing live on cable TV in '97. And then 2 years later, Columbine, I remember watching unfold kind of on cable TV. And so anyway, that left a huge kind of impression in my mind. But I move on. I'm in college. I was a business major originally in college, chugging along, sitting in financial accounting. And I started to remember a book I read when I was in high school. They made everyone read Our Town, which is a book about turn of the 20th century, small town America. And the third chapter in the book, the third act, takes place in a cemetery after all the characters have died, and they sit around kind of thinking about their lives and talking it over and thinking about it. And one of the quotes, as I remembered it sitting in this class, was that a life is odd and that only maybe 1 in 1,000 is ever very interesting. So sitting in financial accounting in college in the very early 2000s, that goes through my mind, and I spontaneously say, I'm gonna go be a cop and have some interesting stories to tell when I'm at my grave. Except a couple years ago, I went back and reread that book, and it's actually a quote about a wedding. Only 1 wedding in 1,000 is ever very interesting.
Oh my gosh.
I've led my entire adult life based on a quote from a book that I misread.
I mean, choosing your path as an adult based on a lie honestly seems pretty on brand for most people I know. So
it's poetic. It's poetic, man.
Yeah. All right, and then last but most certainly not least, Mr. 60.
Hello. I always knew I wanted to be in law enforcement since I was a kid. I always knew that I wanted to do it. My parents were definitely not for it. So whenever I went to college, I was like, all right, let me do criminal justice like a schmuck, because that's what you do. But in the middle of that, I really felt the need to help people. So I joined the Army National Guard about like a year and a half into my college tenure. And then when I was in there, I got a TBI in basic training. So then when I got back, my grades plummeted. They were no good. So my parents were like, hey, listen, we think you might need to take a break from college. Let's think about options. Just maybe take a semester off. You just stay here at home. I was like, well, no, if I'm not doing something, I'm gonna go be a cop. They're like, wait. so ultimately, first city I wanted to go to, I applied to, got in, and that's it, man. I always knew I wanted to be in law enforcement.
All right, short and sweet. Let's go. All right, now we did gather questions from our community in the past about week or so. So we're gonna be opening up our questioning to just kind of organically answering the questions as they roll through. And I guess something that actually came up in a lot of different forms is, how often does a SWAT officer get called into action? Is it something you see in Ready or Not, where they will often get deployed for various levels of threats, or is it kind of like a once in a career sort of thing where you're deployed?
Honestly, so it really is. So SWAT has, they have their job duties that they do when they're not being deployed. But SWAT is really there as a function initially for patrol services. So patrol services gets overwhelmed with something, then SWAT will get called out. And quite frankly, we have the resources to handle just about every situation. Majority of the time, though, we're spent usually serving search warrants for narcotics, or high-risk search warrants for detectives. That's the bulk of the time that is taken up. And then you get the stuff where you get called out for, barricaded suspect and that type of stuff. So that's where, all that comes into place, at least I'm going to give you the Southern California perspective.
Alrighty. What about go on, sorry.
I was going to say, to build on what Chris kind of said there, he's essentially spot on. There's the big 3 of SWAT callouts that we do, being warrant service, barricade resolution, and hostage rescue being the third, and by far the most rare that we end up actually doing. In terms of the intensity of events, I've probably had a disproportionate number of those black swan events kind of come up in my career, the odd ones, and it's still really a handful. Depending on where you work, is going to depend on the call volume for your SWAT team. So there may be teams somewhere in the country that have relatively low, maybe 20 call-outs a year, 20 operations a year, to a large metropolitan team might have, several hundred. Now, some of that's far less interesting than you would think. So like a major metropolitan team may have a quick reaction force for any major event, a sporting event, something like that, where they have a team just standing by somewhere in the event something happens. And that's, by the numbers, technically a call out or an operation, but it's also not certainly something that you would call you would think of in terms of stuff that happens in game. But I mean, the events portrayed in the game are certainly the outliers to your average call out.
Yeah, and for a city of like our size where I was working, we were like Dan was talking about, we had a real team. So it combined like almost 5 or 6 cities that were nearby, because honestly, the SWAT team didn't get called out for much. And when it was a lot of call outs. So there wasn't a whole lot of, actually kicking down doors and doing a whole lot. It was just, hey, get out of your house. And then people come out, surrender themselves, and then they do a search warrant, and that was it. So not a lot of interesting stuff going on there.
And I guess a extension on the first question from Onion Ring is how often are in a case where you're deployed to a home or deployed to a area with a suspect, how common is it for you to have to discharge your firearms?
The lucky part for SWAT, and that's the reason why SWAT gets called, is it chalks up to the name of special weapons and tactics. That's exactly where it's the actual tactics. We got the weapons, and fortunately for us, it's because of those tactics that we're basically on a life-saving mission, where patrol services does not have that capability. If patrol were to handle the situations that we handle, it would probably end in an officer-involved shooting. Fortunately for us, because of the special tactics and the resources we have, our operations will about 99% of the time end safely with no one hurt, maybe some less lethal used, but it's going to be that 1% that's going to be a 1% where we really have an officer involved shooting.
Yeah, I think by the numbers, the national averages work out to, we end up as SWAT using any type of force. So anything from doing an armbar takedown on somebody and forcefully handcuffing them up to deadly force in 10% of callouts, I believe it is, somewhere around there, and deadly physical force in less than 2%. So I mean, ideally we would use it in no events, but obviously the bad guy gets to say kind of how things play out, and I think those numbers are pretty defensible. The thing to keep in mind is that we get called out because we want to be put in situations where we establish that resistance is going to be futile and therefore surrender is likely. So if you give people an option and they see that they might have a chance, then they're going to take that chance. So that's why we bring a lot to the table and kind of force negotiation, force surrender, and are able to get those numbers as low as they actually are.
Yep, ditto. Nothing else to add.
I'll be honest, from an outsider perspective, with admittedly having not only a whole bunch of different outlets I follow, but having a bunch of family that was state sheriffs, troopers, and patrol cops, I am genuinely surprised with some of the stories they give that the number is actually as low as 10%.
Yeah, definitely.
For any sort of actual combative violence, I guess would be a good way to mention it. Because most if it's a violence in general, that kind of does cover a little bit of a too broad of a breadth of what we're talking about. Yeah. All right. Something. What else do we got? We got lots of good questions here. Question from Sten the Awesome. What is your favorite training you attended and why?
You know what? My favorite training, and it's going to be far from SWAT, is when I got to go to motor school and become a motor officer. Learning how to ride a motorcycle, the way we ride, it was phenomenal. And they always say that that's probably the certificate that you cherish the most. And I actually cherish that certificate more than I ever cherished any of my SWAT certificates. So for me, it was motor training, nothing to do with SWAT.
Hey, that's still pretty cool, though.
Yeah, it was.
I think I will give a shout out here, and I don't know how many shooters we have in the listening here, but if we do have people that like to go out and shoot, I'll give a shout out to Chuck Pressberg, Press Check Consulting. He has 2 classes: no fail handgun and no fail rifle. They are absolutely phenomenal classes. They're geared towards law enforcement, but responsible armed citizens should take them as well. They're not necessarily a mechanics of shooting class so much as they are a discipline in control class in terms of controlling your emotions in deadly force encounters and situations where a errant round is unacceptable. So, the hostage rescue, stuff like that. You see, unfortunately, oftentimes, if you analyze shootings where people are kind of firing as an emotional reaction, or they're having an emotional response to this event that's going on, and they're putting a lot of bullets out that aren't hitting anybody but are going somewhere, and that's unacceptable. So I would recommend anybody that likes to shoot to go take one of Chuck's classes. Hard. Totally applicable and something people should take.
All right.
For me, I think my favorite class was Alert. That was super, super cool. Our PD put it on, but essentially it's all room clearing and threat ID, and a lot of the stuff that I talk about on my channel it's super, super interesting. But yeah, we would go to like old abandoned churches and do room clearing with, a bunch of our SWAT guys watching us and taking the heck out of us. But it was good. I loved it. It was great because it made me so much better. Like if we had like an open door call for a house, I would go in there knowing what to do and not just like, fumbling around like some of the older guys. But that, as well as Stop the Bleed class, if y'all have not attended one of those and you're interested in law enforcement or medical stuff, I would heavily encourage you to go to a Stop the Bleed class where people are credentialed and everything. But that can help you immensely in any situation. So
Okay. I am honestly a little surprised that the bike training came up, but that is something kind of that does tend to get a little overlooked as far as kind of some of the cool stuff that cops get to do. So I'm actually
really
kinda
cool
glad
boots with that too.
Oh yeah, the
the leather.
Yeah. It's like, ooh, very good look. Just do your best Chips impression. It'll make the job a lot easier.
That's the best part of being a motor officer is wearing those boots, I'll be honest.
Alrighty. Ooh, this sounds like a fun one. A question from Maximus. What's the most interesting tactical equipment you've seen or tried, either as a police officer or a SWAT officer? Like the examples they gave are like different kinds of drones, the big armored vehicles, kind of different kinds of lasers, lights, that kind of stuff.
Well, you know what? For me, the thing that I thought was the most awesome was the 40 millimeter. To be able to shoot a foam projectile at someone at center mass from less than 25 feet away. Well, back when it first came out, it was a point blank, but then they made it 25 feet. But when that thing hits somebody and it knocks the wind out of them, that thing's pretty awesome. Because the first time I had ever seen one was when I seen Terminator, when he starts shooting out the grenades at the SWAT team at the very end of, I think it was T2. So to use that one day was like, oh, this thing is freaking awesome.
The deadly Nerf ball.
Man, we live in a phenomenal time for technology and stuff. Drones are totally changing the way we do stuff. I would say if I were picking something cool that not everyone knows about, some Las Vegas Metro guys recently were showing me they have a thing that's called the Wolf Tracker with 2 Fs, WOLFF tracker. Super cool. They're these little sensors. You can put them on the outside of walls, and they use sonar, radar, some kind of R, whatever, to go through the walls, and they will light up if there's motion on the inside of the wall. So they put them all over, like on a barricade, all over the outside of the structure of the house in the different rooms, and then you can watch them light up as somebody moves through that room from the outside of the house.
That's cool as hell.
Yeah, they go through concrete, they go through whatever. Super cool stuff.
Yes. I think one of the coolest things I've had the pleasure of seeing in person is the I'm blanking on the name now. Great. But essentially it's a drone that is built into the light bar of the police unit. So essentially from inside the car, if we're like trying to search for somebody that ran away, you can deploy a drone from the top of your vehicle, and it's tethered, so you can go up to like 100 feet up in the air, and you don't need to worry about like holding onto it or controlling it in any way. It just stays put, and it has a thermal, it has night vision on it. It's super, super cool. Very effective tool. So
I'd never heard of anything like that before. That is some actual cyberpunk shit. Let's go.
I know.
And I guess while the thoughts are fresh, we can lead straight into an extended portion of the question from a member of our modding community, Akami. They had a question regarding your primary weapon. They are curious if you are allowed to, say, purchase your own optics, lights, lasers, grips, all that kind of fun stuff, or if you have to use what your department is providing you.
Well, for me, it was quite simple. What the department offered is what we carried. You could modify just slightly, but it had to be with the approval of a range master. But you couldn't have something totally different from your partners. It all had to be at least the same platform and platform.
So we have an approved weapons list. There's a standardized weapon, but then we have additional approved weapons, which are on a list created by me. So I guess I'm lucky, I get to pick what we end up with. It's a pretty good selection of firearms. It's going to vary from department to department to how this is structured. But like I run a Bravo Company rifle. Maybe that might be a coincidental hint why there's one in the game. And I'm running either a Glock or a Staccato pistol. Having a big selection of guns in real life is probably not as important as it is in game. Totally get in game why we like it. I'm a gun guy. I got a lot of different things. But, more or less officers are standardized on some form of an AR-15 rifle and some type of polymer frame, double stack, semi-automatic handgun.
Yep. Just before I got out, we were carrying Glock 17 Gen 5s and with an armor and a flashlight. And that, your duty weapon, that you couldn't change that. That was like everyone in the department has the exact same thing. As far as like a duty rifle or a patrol rifle, at that point, like Dan was talking about, there's an approved list of companies or manufacturers, and then you could pick from those if you'd like, or you could take the BCM that the department offered. A great rifle. But yeah, like I said before, customization and stuff like that had to be approved by a range master, like Dan was talking about. So essentially, yes, you can, with a lot of caveats.
Full disclosure.
7 asterisks.
Yeah, full disclosure, Paul Buffoni from BCM bought me a rifle following a shooting.
Unreal.
So
He spot out.
Yeah, my opinion may not be objective here.
All right. I always thought you guys had a little more freedom than you had mentioned, but it's kind of interesting that you both have a lot of freedom, but also not a lot of freedom, to kind of mix things up a little bit. But keeping standardization intact is kind of an important thing, especially when you're operating with a unit of any level of professionalism. All right, and I guess we can start into some real fun questions. Get some of the hot takes on board.
Oh no!
Question from Agent Bobcat: what's the most unrealistic thing in Ready or Not?
The AI, the flipping AI.
Come on, man!
Just right to the soft spot.
I'm not even going to start with the softball answer. The AI.
I will. You're right, but I will give it a different spin on it, which is just we've already discussed the AI necessitating use of force as often as it is. Certainly, we very rarely in real life have to use force against our opponents, against the people we take into custody. And that's obviously it's a factor of it being a game. You want to have to engage the bad guy in a game as opposed to real life.
I will take another spin on the AI and say that 5 members of the SWAT team cannot take a 10,000 square foot post office by themselves. In this sort of situation, you have a lot more people than just 5 dudes.
So my kind of take on this has always been, and this has come up before with people, I have always interpreted we are not the sum total of the Los Sueños Police Department SWAT team here as we respond to this. We represent one element that's doing something in the scheme of some much larger thing that's going on. Is the the way I've always interpreted it.
Yeah, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, and all joking aside, you gotta put the players in a shoot situation because they're not playing it like we would do it in real life. They want to have their OIS. They want to have that challenge. So, but when we play it, it's just frustrating for us as real police officers because we're like, wait a minute, I should not have to shoot this person, or I need 10 more operators. So that's where, and I think like Whiskey and I, when we play this game, we acknowledge that, and that's why we don't really bash it too bad, just because it is what it is, because it still has to be a playable, fun game.
Yeah, you do have to have that that suspension of reality for the game in its form to exist. Because you can go all the way back to pre-SWAT and talk about like Police Quests 1 through 3, where it is a lot less about or hell, even something that came out a handful of years ago, We Are the Police 1 and 2, where it's all more about everything except the actual direct engagement of criminals. That is unfortunately not what they. Even though it would be cool to see Void's take on it, it is not what a Ready or Not is about.
Yeah, I mean, I remember one time on a barricade sitting outside so long that I watched a swimming pool freeze. I don't think that translates well into gameplay.
Yeah. I think some gamers might not enjoy that. Watching paint dry is a game, though. If you really
watching paint dry, Arma, we can call it 2 separate things. Let's be real here. I say as an Arma enjoyer, talking all of the shit. Alrighty. What would be good hop off for that? Actually, this would be perfect from a question from HNTR. If you had to implement a singular feature to make Ready or Not more analogous to a real life SWAT engagement, what would you add?
I think for me, which is, I don't know if this is doable, but I would love to see maybe an operator function where I could pretend, instead of using a wedge, that I'm putting an operator to guard a door. I mean, I get that the game can only handle so much, so I can't see it like taking in 10 operators like a realistic. But maybe it's one of those things where I can call up a trailer, and a trailer could guard that door instead of using a wedge. And then, and then at that point in time, if someone does pop out, that trailer is able to neutralize the suspect. I think I'd just like to see something like that, because then I can keep moving the 5-man element, down the hallways and stuff like that. And that would make it. I would like that element. That's me.
I think I'm going to abstain from this one, only because I kind of know a little bit about what's going on behind the curtains and have some input on that, and I don't necessarily want to give anything away.
Yeah, both.
Nor do I want to say anything that is going to be taken as gospel as something that's coming down the pike either. So
yeah, both Sterling and Barad would bend you over a barrel if you reveal some of the stuff we got going on.
Leak.
All of the leaks.
I think that for the suspect AI, just to have more interactions that result in surrendering, I think that a majority of the time it ends in a shootout. And again, that can be fun, but at some points it's just like, okay, well, I'm going in there and shooting everybody. I'd like to see more more surrendering with larger uses of force, because I know that the AI reacts pretty strongly if you act strongly, right? So if you're kicking down doors, throwing in flashbangs using C2, they'll respond to that. But I'd also like that to be more of an intimidation rather than an increase of aggression. Because if you've ever been around C2, if you've been on the opposite side of that door, that's not fun. Especially having a flashbang go off at your feet, not fun at all. So yeah, I think suspect AI just getting a little bit more soft, I should say.
Okay. Just kind of more.
Also,
more
you know what? I was
Go on.
just going to say, I'll throw one last thing in there. I think would actually kind of be neat. Maybe it's coming. I think I've heard hints about it, but just that PvP function, because it is a lot of fun to challenge your fellow. Because we're all SWAT off. I mean, a lot of us that would play together, like Only Cops, myself, Whiskey 68. We're all cops, and I think just part of it would be that competition of can we take each other out, and that would be cool.
God, yes, I would. Yes,
I guess this would be a very good thing to kind of re-put in people's memory. We are bringing back PvP. We don't have a date, but we are 100% absolutely confirmed to be bringing back PvP. And it's like the balaclavas that were removed, I do not believe we will be charging for it because it was originally removed from the game. So it'd be kind of a big issue to charge for something that we got a lot of people into the game for.
Give PvP. Come on.
I heard it was actually baklava, the delicious Italian pastry.
Baklava, yeah.
Right.
Oh no.
Yeah, make the balaclava not model specific. Come on, man.
I got one last request.
What you got?
Could we just name Valley of the Dolls Epstein Island? Just get it over
Let's
with.
go. Let's go. Let's go.
Because that's what we call it when we play it.
Oh, actually, one. I'm sorry. One last thing on the nightclub map. Make the ROE like increase. I'm sorry if the FBI is like responding to something like that. Not too many people are walking out of that building. I'm just saying.
That is valid. I will give you that.
I guess we could hit that briefly if we want to. I saw several questions about ROE and kind of how that applies to Ready or Not. I could quickly hit that, I suppose. I've gone into it a lot, but kind of behind the scenes with Void and how ROE works. Really, truly, in law enforcement, ROE isn't actually a thing. What we have is justifiable use of force under the Constitution, state law, and policy. ROE is a little bit different. It's someone setting specific terms for when you can use whatever level of force in the circumstances. In domestic law enforcement, we're required to do things which are objectively reasonable, or in Chris works in California, he can correct me if I'm wrong, they recently changed the wording a little bit to be necessary rather than objectively reasonable, I believe, which seems interchangeable but does create some difficulties. So really what you're looking at is what's going on in the totality of the circumstances, and then is what your action is, whatever level of force you're using, is that objectively reasonable? So if this person has opportunity, ability, and has demonstrated the intent to commit death or serious bodily injury upon somebody else, deadly physical force is certainly reasonable under those circumstances, under almost all circumstances like that. So
let me follow up on that with you then. Can we get the little fleeing felon action in there? Because I've had that happen.
Garner, yeah.
Yeah, because I get penalized whenever homeboy's running straight towards a civilian with a gun in his hand, and I shoot him, and I'm like, well, justifiable use of force.
As with everything, it comes down. It certainly comes down to balancing, having a gameplay mechanic that rewards using less lethal. As well as then trying to put something into position that somewhat replicates real life. Obviously, these horrendous mass shooting scenarios that you're playing through in the game, these people have demonstrated opportunity, ability, and intent, and anything short of immediate surrender would almost certainly be totally reasonable to use.
Because you're approaching a known threat that has, and like you said, has the ability and has the history of violence, especially immediate violence.
Mm-hmm.
So, A lot of that does unfortunately come down to, like you guys have mentioned in various forms, both as realistic and playable, as realistic as playable, and the of what kind of the system that Void has in place is capable of registering in its current forms. Um, we're constantly improving as time goes on, so things will change. Dan knows some of the bits of what's coming, and he's just kind of sitting there doing
I make no comment. Yeah,
Unreal.
I plead the fifth.
Play the fifth and your NDA. All right, I guess since we're on some higher tones, and actually following up off something Chris had mentioned with the PvP, a question from Epic Gamer 877. Oh my god, that name!
That's a great name.
Do you see airsoft as a useful form of force-on-force training, and a little bit of an extension from me? If not airsoft, is it simunitions?
Yeah, we just use simunitions. They hurt more.
Yeah, I mean, anything, where you're doing some sort of force-on-force can have absolute value in training. It really all comes down to the structure of the training and the role players that you get in terms of what the quality is. If it's not structured well, if role players aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, then it ends up being a game, and you lose the value in it. But certainly, as a low-cost, no-cost way of doing it, airsoft is an option. And sometimes, depending on where you're training at, may be the only option you have. If you're training in a place that most of the places we train are closed down, terrible black mold filled form and hospitals and whatever we get our hands on. But sometimes you get somewhere nice that you don't want to destroy. And simunitions, they're safe, but they can certainly break things when they go through. So that may be the only option you have if you're if airsoft is it for you, or for that matter, if you're in a civilian world now, simunition's been reclassified by the ATF as a non-importable munition. So the companies that do simunition training on the civilian side are running into problems getting them.
Yeah, like for our alert classes, we use simunition like Dan was talking about, especially in those really decrepit, broken down places, because no one really cares if one hits the wall. It's not that big of a deal, but sometimes, airsoft is an absolutely great way to train. Like we had one night where, I'm going to use the keyword, it was really quiet. And so we got to the briefing room, like, hey, you want to do some training? So we did impromptu airsoft training. One of our sergeants had an airsoft gun. And so we were working through slicing the pie, working through how to handle corner fed rooms, center fed rooms. Doing that with an airsoft gun can give you a limited experience on that, kind of in the same way that Ready or Not can be a way to practice mentally. Right. Anytime you're going to a call, you're always practicing or mentally preparing yourself for what that call is going to be. And Ready or Not can kind of do that in the same way, where you're like, okay, if I want to enter this room, how would I do this in real life? And you train that way. And so that way, whenever it comes to being real life, you're like, okay, I've kind of in a weird way already played this before. I played this out already. So using airsoft just as much as Ready or Not, I mean, it can be a great tool to train. Yeah.
All right, and I guess some of the words you said again make a perfect segue to a question we got from Degenerate, username Degenerate, not a Degenerate. A lot of it here, and they worded it very nicely. No human out there is immune to fear. How have you learned to act as rationally as you can while being afraid?
I'll be honest. You're afraid when you're in the planning stage. I mean, I'll sit there and we're doing our briefing, about what we're about to do. And then once we go hot, I know for myself, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think it might be the same, is that it's kind of gone. And that because you're on that mission. And then once it's over, is when you realize, damn, that was scary, or damn, that could have gone bad. So I just know after the fact, when I have the adrenaline dump, is when I really think about how things could have gone bad. But I think once we say go, you start shaking, and then when you step off that Bearcat, it's the shaking stops because now you're in the mode.
You're in. You got your job to do, and you're gonna do your damnedest to do it the best you can.
Yeah, I think Chris hit the nail pretty much on the head with that. I think if you broke it down into two skills, the first one would be being task-oriented or task-focused as you're doing things. And then the other thing would be kind of compartmentalizing as you go what's going on. So, yeah, like he said, in the back of the armor riding up to the thing, it's usually joking and messing with your buddies until you get slightly out, a minute or two out. Then it's game time. Gets nervous about what's going on. Once you're on scene, you're doing your thing. You're not really thinking about you're aware that it's dangerous for sure, but you're not really thinking about it. You're focusing on what the next problem is and how you're going to work through it and handle it and move on. And then after the fact, you kind of look back and you're like, wow, that was really dangerous. I was in danger.
Yeah, I would classify it as almost like a numb feeling once you're actually doing the thing. Like if you're like, okay, I know for sure that someone inside of this house has a gun and they're wanting to kill us. And you're just like, all right, well, I mean, got to solve the problem. I have to solve the problem. And that's where your mind goes to. It's not so much, oh crap, I could get shot. It's, hey, I need to address the problem. And everything else goes by the wayside. Yeah, I think Chris hit it pretty much right on.
And quite frankly, with that ready or not element, I really kind of thought it was kind of a crappy element to have the psychologist in the back. But the more I thought about it, and with all the mental health awareness that is currently in law enforcement, we really didn't. We still kind of don't. We don't have an outlet where you go back and we talk about like, oh my gosh, that was dangerous. I think each and every operator has their own way of dealing with it, but then some of us don't deal with it well, and then you stack those up over mission after mission, months after months, and years after years, and that's why you have some people who put unfortunately a bullet in their head just because they all that trauma over the years has definitely taken its toll. So that is kind of a nice element to see, because it's letting our community see, hey, wait a minute, why is this component back here? And now it's kind of bringing some mental health awareness that police officers do need it. So I definitely do appreciate that element in the game now.
I cannot overstate how I don't know how I would even word it. I'll have to come back to that statement because my brain is not working currently. But yeah, it very much is something that is unfortunately very underserviced in a lot of things with how we talk about people that go through those sort of situations where these people are heroes. What they're doing is great. They are incredibly skilled, but everything they do takes a toll on them. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't really get the help they need, and that really sucks in the most broad way I can say it.
I can actually, just from not to bring the room, but I have had now 3 friends commit suicide. On top of it, being diagnosed with PTSD as well as suffering from sleep paralysis. It's 27 years 27 years as a police officer, but then you add the 10 years I did as a paramedic. It's definitely taken its toll on my mind, and my dreams aren't nice and warm and fuzzy dreams. My dreams are definitely the dreams of nightmares.
But you're still kicking it, and you're still talking to us about it with a smile. So that means
what matters.
You've got to be doing something right.
I always have a smile.
Alrighty. I guess we can definitely use this question from Razor to bring the room up a little bit. They do note that a lot of the questions that they've seen were big topics, heavy topics. Their question is, what is the funniest experience you've had as an officer, either as a traffic stop, interacting with the public, or even interacting with a suspect?
I was actually just talking to my daughter about this because I just saw a TikTok on it. I was a motor officer, and when I was walking up to the girl's car, I could see that she was primping her boobs, kind of putting her shirt a little lower so I can see her cleavage. And after I was walking back from my bike back to her car with a ticket, she says, one of my friends told me that police officers don't give pretty girl tickets. And I said, you're right. Sign here, press hard, 3 copies. And the way she just looked at me, I just was like, almost every police officer waits for a moment like that where you can actually say something funny. But that was probably fun. Now I got other funnier stories, but they're going to be a little bit definitely non-G rated. And I know Whiskey, we've shared a couple of those stories, like how we found dead bodies, how people have died, and you're just like, oh my God, I never want to go out this way. So I'll leave mine to that one.
Yeah, I too had the
thing. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, one of the situations where she was probably thinking, "Damn, I wish you would have shot me instead of gave me a ticket. That was awful."
Right.
So yeah, I too had to kind of filter through a whole bunch of unsafe for the public consumption stories. The one I can think of on a traffic stop, and it's probably not the funniest thing that ever happened to me. It was pretty far out there. So I was working patrol in a part of the city that was a college town, college area. So a lot of nightlife, a lot of bars, a lot of everything. And then it was kind of adjacent to another part of the city that was also like a big nightlife area. And it was separated by a river that a bridge crossed over. And then it came over. And there were like 4 lanes of traffic one way. And there was a bus lane that only buses traveled in that went the opposite way towards the other college part of the town. So, you know, on a Saturday night, it was a guarantee if you saw a car in that lane that it was going to be a DUI arrest. So I was sitting there one night, and it's probably 2:30 on a Saturday morning, and I see this SUV running up the bus lane, and it is driving just herky-jerky in and over into the oncoming lanes, back into the cars. I'm like, all right, I'm going to have to deal with this, I guess. Not that I really wanted a DUI at this point in my evening or my career for that matter, but here we are. So I go ahead and do a traffic stop on it, and I'm walking up to the car, and I'm getting up past the back driver's side window to do my approach. And out of nowhere, because the windows were fairly darkly tinted, thud, this white flash and feathers smash off of the side window. So I jump back. As I do that, driver's side door opens. 2 girls, very intoxicated girls, pour out of the driver's side of the car. A third one climbs out a couple seconds later, and there is a very angry goose in the back of the car with them. So apparently they were drinking over in the other part of the town where this was, and they found this goose that they had somehow coaxed into their car with them, that they were going to take back to their dorm, I guess, with them. That was not happy that this was the situation it was involved in. It was a flapping, angry mess. So we ended up DUIing the driver. The goose, I do not remember, custody-wise where the goose went, but
damn, losing track of evidence like that.
Yeah, what the destruction of evidence? Unbelievable.
It's a good legal argument. I can't prove that it was intoxication that was causing that, as opposed to
Right.
I think the one traffic stop that was funniest to me, it wasn't even my traffic stop. I was assisting my corporal. He had gotten a traffic stop. It was definitely a DWI. And so he's doing all the SFSTs with the driver, and I'm watching the passengers, making sure he's not doing anything. Anyway, so he's like, all right, hey, come on back here. We're going to do the cuff thing. I was like, all right, sick. So I go back there, help him with the handcuffing, do a quick search, and then I'm going back to talk with the passenger because I was like, hey, listen, the passenger needs to know, we're about to probably tow the car. He needs to be a little aware of that. So I'm walking back. I hear, hey, man. It's like, what? He's like, hey, man, don't come up. I was like, uh-oh. What does that mean? Don't come up. He's like, don't come up, man. Don't come up. I was like, okay. So I start thinking, hey, this dude might be trying to draw a weapon or do something stupid. So I'm kind of pieing the passenger side. He's like, bro, man, I'm pissing in the bottle. Please don't come up. Oh my gosh, bro. It's like, bro, just say that. Unbelievable. All right, do your thing, man. He's like, all right.
Listen, man had to go.
Yeah, I know.
At least he had the wherewithal.
Yeah.
In the car and not in the patrol vehicle.
Oh, yeah.
Agreed.
Exactly. I appreciated the heads
Agreed.
up.
I do not know how you guys stay sane, especially with some of the people, like stories from family, stories from the internet, or stories I've even listened to from Chris and Six's videos. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, drunk people can be the worst.
How I'm even still here.
drunk people can be the worst, but they can also be the most funny because you can really, riff back and forth between them because they're not going to care whatever you say.
You know what? It's a funny whiskey. When your actual story just brought up. I remember a friend of mine asked me to roll up on a van that was parked in front of his buddy's donut shop of all things, right? And I knock on the window, and this husband and wife pour out of it, and they're wearing their costumes, and I'm like, "What are you guys doing?" And they're like, "Sir, we got kids at home, and this is our thing." And I'm like, "You know what? Enough said." But they were role playing, and then they were hard, but that was the only privacy they said they had. And I'm like, "I'm out of here, guys. You do what you got to do."
Get a hotel room. What are you doing?
Right? Oh man, it was pretty funny.
Oh boy. I guess while we're on this high, this would be a good question to ask. Question from Ace that popped up in the chat, since we only kind of really got some heavier questions left on our document, and I don't want to ruin the mood with that. What is your favorite question? Yeah, question from Ace. What is your favorite weapon feature or map in Ready or Not?
I'm gonna throw it out. Time with the Valley of the Dolls. It's just something fun that we do, especially like we want to take the cobwebs off of when we haven't played for a while. So we'll do Valley of the Dolls because we have no ROEs when we do it, at least on my channel. But I think one of the when it comes to the challenging ones is like the later ones. I forget the one where you go into the caves. I forget the name of it right now, but that's actually kind of one of my favorite ones because it's hard to watch your corners when you're in a cave.
Belt is a bastard.
So,
yep.
So I like that one, me personally.
All right.
Rust Belt. That's it. Rust Belt. Yeah.
Rust Belt is good. Yeah. Well, like I said, as far as weapon goes, I've already spoiled it, but Bravo Company Mark 1 is my duty gun in real life. Except I don't do key mod. I do M-Lock. Key mod's dumb.
Here.
But so yeah, it's in game for a reason. So I'll say that's my favorite in game gun. Map wise, I mean, I kind of like the urgency of Elephant. I think it's a cool map. But yeah, I mean, Valley of the Dolls or Elephant for very opposing reasons, I think are pretty cool.
Okay.
At this point, I have settled on the ARN 180 just because it absolutely slaps anybody that's in the way. Like it's a 2-shot every single time. So I've definitely taken up on the ARN 180. My favorite map.
Hey, Whiskey, I'm gonna ask you a question on what do you think about the one where you go? It's kind of the map where it's the 2 or 3 people in the cabin. You know what? I did forget about that one. I think that one's kind of awesome.
Yeah,
Sullivan Slopes so much.
I love it because it's so difficult, and I like cheesing it with the breaching shotgun by just standing 50 feet away and letting it explode. No, that one's fun. That was a lot of fun. I think my favorite one now is Lawmaker for sure because it's a lot like all the houses that I got used to clearing in patrol.
Yeah,
like it got so. It just feels like home. Feels like where I'm supposed to be clearing out. It's so cool. I love how it's all built out. I love the graphics in it. Yeah, Lawmaker for sure.
Yeah.
I guess it's a good thing we nerfed your breaching shotgun into the ground. So
I know 3.5 meters. You buttholes, dude.
Yeah.
I was like, this is not realistic, but I'm going to use it.
I feel like I should be doing. I feel like I should be doing this interview.
Oh, huge. Huge with the aviators. Let's go.
Oh, yeah. Especially the blue tinted ones.
No, God bless. That's amazing.
And I guess this is actually one where I can chime in a little bit. Anybody that's been on Discord more than well enough knows SA-58 and Revolver is my weapon all day, every day. Maximum stopping power with the biggest bullets I can bring to bear.
It's a massive explosion every single time. Good for you.
See,
yep.
You don't have to worry about ammo consumption because one round, center of mass, drops anything.
Done. Yeah, because there's a cave inside their chest now. Yeah.
I mean, what is it? It's a your famous quote there, right? 60. Just drop them with as minimal effort as possible.
Exactly. Do it. Gotta do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because those damn DA investigators, they start counting rounds.
I mean, that is a selling point for a shotgun. Somebody was asking earlier about do shotguns have value or still in use or whatever. That is a good argument to say. I fired one time. It had 9 pellets that went in, but it was one pull of the trigger.
Took off his right arm.
One
Good
pull.
for him.
9 pellets or like a 230 grain solid slug of lead.
Slug?
Big 1-ounce slug.
Interchangeable.
Slug him.
All right. I think this one might be some funny for some funny conversation. Question from Schnitz. Would you want to work for the Los Sueños Police Department?
Oh God.
I already did.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
I basically did. So yeah, I'm basically there. So I guess the answer would be yes. I'd do it all over again.
It doesn't seem like it's in a great state in game. Maybe yeah. It might, if you were doing it because you want the experience and you want some stories to tell, I think it would be hard to beat Los Sueños. But if you're looking for a solid vested pension, there, if you want that pension to be solvent when you retire, I don't think Los Sueños is it.
Yep. No, I'll take my 10 square miles of patrolling. That's okay. I'm good. Thank you, though.
What's wrong? You guys don't want to work in a constantly under siege city
every single night? Yeah, every single night there's a terrorist attack. Yeah, no, I'm okay actually.
I think fraction of the budget it needs.
Yeah, I think that station's going to lead to having some bad allergies. I really think the scientists are going to have problems in there.
Oh yeah.
What's funny is, so my daughter works where I used to work, and what's funny is just the other day, she had left for work, and then a buddy of mine called me. And he was listening to the radio, and it's it's funny. We're just having a small chat, and then he just says, "Oh man," he goes, "Your daughter just found a gun on a 187 suspect." And I'm just like, those are just conversations I don't think some parents hear about their kids, right? And I'm just like, it's 7:00 in the morning. What the,
I don't know. Some people might, dude. I don't know.
Yeah,
Cop and Irish says, but you get GPNVGs, and you also get mold in your lungs. I'm okay. I'm okay.
We're not going to talk about the stuff that came out of the came out of the offices there, unburying in the back of the headquarters.
Yeah, no, I'm okay. I don't need the lost to come out of my head. I don't need the flowers coming out there. No, thank you. I'm good.
Right.
It's fine. Just minor psychedelics. Alrighty. And I guess that also, the quips do lead directly into this question from Zulu. What's the craziest thing that you've experienced as an officer? Either something that is just a explosion of either, of violence, or just a impossible odds, or just something so weird that you still can't quite process it.
For me, and actually, you can actually take a look at it on YouTube, because I was interviewed by Gangland. It was when the Mexican mafia wiped out a family of 5. They executed their primary target, but they also took out an innocent family member that was at the front door, and then they killed a mom and her 2 children, one child being 8 years old and the other one being 6 months, and they killed both of those children execution style. Something I never forgotten, and if anybody wants to take a look at that episode, it's from Gangland. You just have to put in Mexican mafia on YouTube, and I think my interview's in the first 7 minutes, and then it came out in a book called The Black Hand, where I was interviewed regarding that particular murder. But that would probably be when people ask me what is the thing that is the worst thing, whatever I experienced in my career, that is definitely it. There will be nothing that will ever come to. That was the time where I said, this is what real evil looks like, and that was that's it for me.
Jesus.
Chris went dark there.
Sorry.
I'll lighten it up slightly, because the only person that died in this was the bad guy. I went to a shooting. It was on a barricade. It wasn't my team initially. It was another team that was involved. It was originally not even a SWAT call out. It was another law enforcement issue. But they ended up taking fire from the guy they were trying to get out of the house on this barricade, and a bunch of different agencies showed up, and it went on for 6 hours. And over the course of 6 hours, there was over 5,000 rounds fired between that guy and the assorted agencies that had showed up. It was truly the craziest thing I have ever seen in my life. He would lean out a window and open fire with a couple pistols or a rifle, and then there would just be a volley back at the house that would go on for 2 or 3 minutes, and this went on over and over again over the course of hours.
God.
I have never seen anything like that before or after. Truly insane. He was completely naked, incidentally, whenever we eventually went in and arrested him.
As you should be. As you should be. Yeah, of course.
Go out like that.
Go out as you came in, yeah.
As a quick ancillary question, because now you've got me curious before First Six shares his. How much ammunition does an officer generally bring with him? Because that is a lot.
So, for SWAT, our loadout typically is we run four rifle magazines, 3 handgun magazines. That's pretty standard. Obviously, we keep more in the armor. We keep more in support vehicles and everything. But this was literally, they were calling for people to bring ammo from the academy. Like,
yeah, patrol wise, it's like
you can ask Whiskey. You don't get to answer that question because we all fucking know that you have a bag of ammo that you carry like 1,000 rounds just in your suitcase next to you on the passenger. And we won't talk about what's in your war bag in the trunk.
That's what patrol do, baby. It's what patrol do.
I know Whiskey is one of the guys that he could supply ammo to every guy on the team.
Listen, someone else needs a mag, they got it. No problem. No problem. No, patrol-wise, it's like most of the time it's 1 in the gun, and then you got 2 sitting on your belt. Generally, that's what the department issues you. Now I got a 3. Because, hey, like as Chris said, like having a little more, why not? But our patrol rifle, we would have 3 mags in our plate carrier, which we kept in the back, and then 1 in the gun. So, always ready to go.
I just want to say I've always appreciated officers like Whiskey, and the reason why is if the zombie apocalypse ever happens, that's the first dude I'm looking for.
Oh, we got to go, man. We got to go.
He's ready. All right, and I guess we can kind of pivot back to the original question because we got a smidge off topic because I was really curious. So yeah, what's the craziest thing that you've experienced in the line of duty there, Six?
There's one that I could tell, but if I told it, it would absolutely dox where I was. So I can't tell that one. But the other one I could think of, so we had these vehicles near the decoy vehicles. Nobody's in them. We just put them out so that people slow down whenever they see them. So me and another officer were moving decoys, and we see this beautiful Bugatti. And so, hey, let's run the plate. Like, it's got a temporary tag on it. It looks brand new, but the temporary tag's out of date. Like, what's going on here? So we run it. It comes back to a stolen vehicle. So we're like, oh, snap. It starts moving. It goes into this elementary school line. And we're like, oh, crap, dude, this is going to suck. And I was like, hey, man, like maybe we don't pull it over here. He's like, yeah, we'll try to get it on the way out. Anyway, so he gets into the line all the way up to where the kids are standing. And it looks like he's about to take off. So we start lights and sirens in the middle of the parking lot. It was such a bad place to do it, but it's the only way we could get him. So we get up there, pull him over, do the investigation. We're starting working through everything. His kids are coming out. We're like, oh, crap. Now the kids are going to see it. That sucks. I kid you not. 3 cars rolled up on us with his entire family. Cousins, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters. I was like, what is going on here? Like, why are you taking him to jail? Why are you taking him to jail? Like, listen, I'm just here as a support officer. I don't know. Like, stop yelling at me. So we had to call the rest of the entire department out there because there was at that time like 12 to 16 people out there of his family just berating us for taking him to jail for stealing the vehicle. So that was probably the craziest as that won't dox me.
I think the wildest part is you ran it like on a whim. It's like,
Yep.
wait, this is something we need to deal with. Shit.
Yes, well, I mean, it's a freaking A. I mean, it was stolen out of, I think, Ohio. So we're like, how the frick did it get here? Yeah, the heck.
And you nabbed it with 0 damage. So
I know. Now we seize it, have a little Bugatti for the department. Just kidding.
just get some of those some of the officers from Dubai with their super.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
Yeah,
get
right.
a little Ferrari action, of
yeah.
course.
There you go.
Of course.
Get that good shit. Alrighty. I guess as we've been rolling on, you guys have picked up on some of the talk in the chat. Are there any questions in particular that we haven't addressed yet that you guys would like to pick up on or answer? And I guess now would be a great time to let the audience know, hey, if there's something that we didn't ask that you're curious about, now's your chance.
Oh, Jerusalem, this one got me because I saw this on, I forget the show, but it ticked me off. Are hand signals common practice in state level SWAT, or is that more of a practice for federal type SWAT teams? Most of the time, it's like, at least from patrol side, I can tell you, it's all verbal. It's all verbal, common language, common speak. We don't do the hand signs because that leads to so much miscommunication. It's ridiculous. We watched a team from another department try to use hand signals in one of our alert classes. Could not function. When you're telling your partner next to you, hey, left 45 clear, left 90 has a door at the end of the hallway, right 90 has nothing, right 45 leads to a dead space. That makes sense. That's verbal communication, and you can't do that exactly. You can't do that with hand signals. I hate them. 0 out of 10 would not do.
Me either. They're worthless.
Yeah, I would say the only time we ever do hand signals for anything practically would be like exterior movement. Like if we were doing a search of a field or something where we were doing like IMT stuff. And even then, if you don't do it frequently, nobody remembers.
Like the only thing I can think of that's hand signal wise that's generally used is the flashbang, where you take the flashbang, put it in front of your partner's hand to let them know, hey, this is going in. But that's about it.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Oh my god. I think that
They're pouring in. Do you open the flood?
Actually, yeah, I think I'm kind of curious about the question. The question from Crow. Do you have any experience working with sheriff departments? I don't myself know like the scope difference between like sheriffs, troopers, like patrol officers, all that fun stuff. So
Sheriff is county level, police is generally city level, state is troopers. That's generally the way it's organized.
Yeah, and we, like where I work, Alley County surrounds us, so we work closely with them. They work closely with us, but what people like see on TV is like the counties at odds with the cities at odds with the county. There ain't shit like that going on. As well as the FBI, the ATF, all those 3 initial letters. Those guys are not badasses like they're displayed on TV. As quite frankly, we've served many FBI search warrants. I had DEA and served their search warrants. They're just another team. But they're not just allowed to come into your jurisdiction and say, we got it. It's like that shit doesn't happen. So, that's all TV stuff. So, but, yeah.
There's also TFOs, which are pretty cool. The task force officers, where essentially like the FBI, they can basically deputize one of the police officers within your department to handle federal level crimes, so they can actually prosecute those.
okay,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
they
And
can,
use
like
federal money.
assign an officer to it.
So the FBI has to, yeah, exactly. The FBI specifically has one officer, and part of that though is you do stuff for them, right? So the FBI will hand you caseload stuff too. So you're working kind of double duty there.
That's kind of
Yeah.
cool.
It is cool. I wanted to TFO so bad. It's such a cool one.
Yeah, where I work, we had several guys that were TFOs to the DEA, ATF, not the ATF, the FBI, and the DEA.
How about you, Dan?
Yeah, likewise. So yeah, I've also been a part of. We work pretty routinely with the feds in the area, doing warrants for them as part of larger operation roundups and whatnot. And As far as sheriffs go, where I work, the state I work in is a little bit odd. So sheriffs here don't do patrol stuff. So ordinarily, like Chris said, Vic 68 also said, sheriffs typically work the unincorporated areas outside of city limits throughout the county that they handle for patrol responsibilities. The state I work in, that's kind of not the case. Sheriffs are basically wards of the court. They do process serving, evictions, paper, court paper stuff like that, but they don't actually patrol or anything like that. Most areas that's contracted out to different agencies or state police in areas that don't have some kind of standing agreement with a larger city to cover them.
Yeah.
Okay, that's actually really cool. I guess another this nice short one. Any experience with the U.S. Marshal Service aside from sheriff cooperation?
Oh yeah, same thing. The marshals will be their fugitive. It's usually their fugitive teams. Their fugitive teams will be looking for somebody, and what they'll do is they'll put an agent or two in the area, and then they'll put your team on standby. And just because it sometimes takes a while for them to mobilize their teams. It's and we've done stuff for the postal inspector, that type of stuff. So everyone generally, in my opinion, works really well with the feds. I think TV just loves to show a different narrative.
Like a bunch of conflict, yeah.
Yeah, there is.
Oh God, you cut out. Say it again.
We lost you at there is after cooperation.
Who, me?
Yes, you.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. No, I'm just saying I don't think there's the conflict that people think that there is. We generally work really well with each other. But we will, like I said, most police agencies, especially like in LA County, we're working with the ATF, the postal inspectors, the DEA, everybody. As a matter of fact, when I was on our narcotics team, we had a DEA agent assigned to us, and we were basically her crew, and we did a lot of things with the DEA, and we worked really, really well together. So, but yeah, we're constantly working. And like I said, with the marshals, we just generally will be doing, they're helping them with their fugitive. When they find a fugitive, they'll send a couple of agents, and then because their team is nationwide, they can't have their entire team there, so they'll use the locals to help apprehend their suspects.
Alrighty.
Like Chris said, yeah, most of the time it's a very good working relationship, and I say that as somebody whose team recently got called out to a event involving a federal agency that was very high profile and will probably not bode well for relationships between like local and state or local and federal authorities in the future. But we came out after the fact that this, which I'm being candid about or being a little coy about, but overall the relationships are very good. Agencies get along. We all have the same goal here. Marshals in particular, I've always found to be the most cop-like of the federal agents.
Mm-hmm.
Dealing with
Yes.
They just tend to be the most like regular working cops, and I've got along with them very well in the past.
Those dudes don't mess around. They are a business. They are business, man. They are sick.
Cool. Like,
yep.
Honestly,
you gotta love them.
It's something that does surprise me a little bit, because in my technical background, I have had to work as a bridge between government agencies in a couple small cases, and oh my god, the headbutting is absurd. I'm actually very glad to hear that when it comes down to like law enforcement stuff, that the cooperation is there.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think bureaucracy within like the FBI or something like that, they butt heads with each other more often than they do with like local or state. 100%. Like they butt against each other way more than they do with local.
Yeah.
Alrighty. And I guess we can ask real quick, how are you three looking on time right now?
I'm going to probably be cutting out here in about 5-10 minutes, just due to the fact of actually my battery is about to die. But
unreal.
Yeah, so if I go blank, all because my battery died. But yeah, so I got about another 5.
I'm doing good.
I'm good for whatever you need.
Yep.
All right, and I guess for Chris, we can start wrapping things up a smidge. A question from Mr. Unoriginal, which is actually a very original question he's got for us. If you had a specific moment in your career to be remembered for, what would it be?
Dang.
Well, once again, I will actually say this much. This one, you can actually find it on YouTube as well. I'll try to give the quick version of the story, but I was in briefing and I was listening to an officer give his reason why he had a nickname. His nickname was Blue, and his parents had nicknamed Blue. Long story short, he was born with a cord wrapped around his neck in the driveway of his home. And when he was telling the story, and it just seemed, I started to like, wait a minute, that just sounds so familiar. We found out that I was actually the person who delivered him in his driveway when his cord was wrapped around his neck, and I was able to successfully remove the cord, and he started breathing again. And we found out that, I was indeed the person. So it was kind of neat to know that 25 years prior, I had saved his life, and now we were partners together at the police department, and we had no idea. So that was probably one of the most memorial stories that I can ever think of, is that because with the lives we save, we'll generally never, 99.9% we'll never see him again. This is like, wow. So you don't know. I guess the moral of this story is that you just don't know the difference that you'll make in people's lives.
That is like insane, like genuinely, for the meaning of the word insane, that kind of came around like that.
Yeah, they actually did a story on the local news. Did a story, actually not local. It actually took off pretty well. I mean, internationally, they did. So there's actually a YouTube short on it from a couple different news channels about it.
Righty. What do you got for us, Mr. Dan?
Well, I don't know if it's the one I necessarily want to be remembered for, but it's the one I'm sure I will be remembered for. So I responded, one of the active killer situations I responded to over the years. I responded to at a medical facility about 12 years ago now. I was one of the first guys on scene, along with some patrol guys. A couple other SWAT guys showed up shortly thereafter. Ultimately, we ended up going in, got in the lobby, chaos, carnage, all sorts of bad stuff going on. Bad guy went somewhere else in the building. We ended up having to search through the building partway to get him, engage him, and stop him. Ultimately, I ended up getting into a gunfight with the bad guy. It was a 22-yard gunfight where I ended up taking a hostage rescue shot on the bad guy while he was using a wounded victim as cover, shooting back at me. So I shot him, dropped him, killed him. Ended up clearing the rest of the building, probably saved some people's lives there. But ultimately, out of all that, what I'm proud of isn't the yay me part of that. It's that the guys that showed up, the guys from patrol, weren't necessarily the people that I would have expected to go charging into a scene like that. And what I'm proud of is that they all had the faith in me as a patrol supervisor, that when we got in there and I gave them commands, everybody leapt at it, charged in, had no question that we were going to go and we're going to succeed, and that I was able to lead them that way. So that's really the part of it that I'm proud of. And if I had to say I would like to be remembered for any aspect of that, it would be that part.
That's
Good
awesome.
for you, man. That's dope.
Really cool.
That's awesome.
I either have very good luck or very bad luck, depending on how you look at it. That's the only one of those I've been to, but...
Wow. I don't know how to follow up that, but... Let's see. Okay, yeah. So there was one where we had a call from someone in another city that was concerned about one of their friends because they were texting with them back and forth, and then out of nowhere he's just like, "Hey, goodbye," and that was it. And so she was like, "Hey, I think this is his address." So that city transferred it over to us. They're like, "Hey, we think this guy's in your city. Do you mind going and checking on him?" I was like, "Yeah," like of course, yeah. So get on scene and all of the lights are on. Every single light in the house is on from the outside. Every single light. It was just a strange situation. Start knocking on the door, nothing. Go around the back to try and see if there's anybody there. No one. I start smelling something weird, like something it's just off. And then I look at the grill, and the grill is on. I was like, okay, either I'm about to die from a bomb or something's on the grill. So I pop open the grill, and there's his phone just chilling there, getting burned alive. I was like, oh, that's sick. So we get that off. Anyway, we ended up making entry, and he had tied a plastic bag around his head, taken I think half an entire bottle of Benadryl, and so we were able to get in there and take care of him, make sure he got into a better position than he was then. And so we had that, and then literally the next day or the next night, I got a call for an OD in progress. So went to that. It was a 16-year-old kid OD'd on Hulk, which is like essentially fentanyl, but I got Narcan in him and did that. And I was like, oh man, that's crazy. And then the next night we had a shots fired call. Dude was angry that he got the wrong order from In-N-Out from his girlfriend. So he started cranking off rounds in the backyard. Then he was apparently trying to take one of them hostage inside the house. And so we're like, okay, let's get in there. So got in there, took care of business, ended up not needing to fire any rounds, thank God. And but yeah, so we had that. I had that in 3 nights in a row, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I got 2 life-saving awards. Apparently they didn't think that the hostage rescue counted. So but yeah, awesome. Man, that was I think the most proud, because I came out of that, I don't know, feeling a little bit more confident about myself, that I could handle those situations and take care of people. It was good.
Just the arrangement is just like, Jesus.
It's one thing after the other, man. That's the way it can be. It's so random.
Sticks out here just living the Ron life, getting the same call frequency as Los Sueños. But yeah, I guess like it was great having y'all here. It was great great that you guys accepted my my invitation, and we got to talk about some cool stuff, shoot the shit, and just kind of talk about kind of some little bits that don't get talked about often, which frankly kind of should be talked about more, rather than the stuff that kind of does appear, which is just the stuff that is awful. But anything you guys would like to append your little append your appearances with? Anything you'd like to say?
I just say, hey, thanks for the opportunity of being able to talk to the community. I love playing Ready or Not. I think it's it's a good game. Actually, it's a great game, and it has a lot of potential to add a lot of to be the tactical shooter that I think a lot of us have been waiting for. But I think it's neat to actually to be able to talk to the people like that have been here joining us, and the people that will watch us later on down the line. I definitely do appreciate it, and that's the whole gist of my channel, was just trying to show people that police officers are regular people too. We have likes, dislikes, we have problems, and we have families and all that type of stuff. But just showing them, we like a video game just like anybody else, and you know what? But once again, we're just regular peeps.
Yeah, I feel like this is the coolest job I have in the world here, working for Void, doing this stuff. Yeah, I'm doing it because I like playing video games. I think it's super cool that I get to turn around and take that experience that I have and kind of put it in something that gives some value back, and hopefully makes a good product here. I was talking before the chat started. I totally in high school would have ended up going into video game development or something cool and making games. If at the time all of that was very math heavy, and I'm just a dumb cop, so there was zero chance I was getting through all the math end of it back then. But it's super cool that I still have some kind of an ability to do that. Yeah, I hope everybody enjoys playing the game. You can make a simulation that's not necessarily very fun, or you can make a game that's fun, that comes and hits some of the key elements and captures atmosphere. And I hope I hope I've helped contribute to that.
You certainly have. I can tell you that for sure.
Yeah, I want to say thank you to the community. The only reason I have any marginal amount of success whatsoever is because of y'all. I appreciate the the support. I appreciate the Only Cops guys, Chris the Cop. Y'all have definitely helped me out. It's been fun playing with y'all. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
I just want to be a playable character.
That'd be so cool. Have a model for you. That'd be so cool.
I just want to be a playable character.
If any modders are in here,
before I die.
if there are any modders in here,
Let's go.
Get it.
I will get I'll get Sterling, Mark, and Steve on it. Chris the Cop DLC soon. TM.
Huge. That'd be so
that
huge.
would be huge.
But thank you all for
thanks
for watching. Thank you for the support. Thank you for letting me speak here. And as always, remember our sole objectives: stop the killing, stop the dying.
And with that, I think that's a perfect sign off. Thank you guys very much for your time, and the rest of you guys enjoy the rest of your night.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, peace.
See you guys.
See you guys.
Bye.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching the Ready or Not Law Enforcement Officer Ask Me Anything stage channel with Chris. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll